Before I start, if you're not familiar with what GCam is, it's Google's camera software that's used in the camera app for past Nexus devices and current Pixel devices. And there are a lot of modders out there that will actually take that GCam app and port it. By porting, I mean they'll repurpose it so you can use that app in a different Android phone. And then a lot of times its post-processing algorithm will end up giving you better photo results than what the stock camera app can give. In this particular instance, using the Moto G7, I'm running GCam 7.0, which was made by Jose Henrik, I think is what it said, with a build date of October 27th. So that's enough talk here. Here are the results. In this first set of shots, you'll see the sun overexpose a bit more with GCam, but overall the exposure is pretty similar. There's a bit more lens flare going on here with the stock camera, but the biggest thing that sticks out to me is the grass in the foreground. It looks matted on the stock cam and more detailed on GCam, but I'll get back to that in a sec. The clouds up above produce better highlights with the stock cam and darker shadows as well. GCam pulls those shadows up so you can see a bit more detail in the trees. At 100% crop, GCam provides a touch more detail here, less background noise in the sky, lifted shadows by this pole, and way better grass in the foreground, like way better. Overall, I'd give it to GCam here, but the stock camera app isn't bad at all. Let's see how the rest do. In this next set of shots, you'll see GCam pull back on the highlights again. There's just a flat look on this building with GCam where the stock app produces varying degrees of highlights. At 100% crop though, GCam provides better detail on this building with smoother lines overall. Better detail in the trees here, but not by much, and by the water, those highlights get really muddled. Check out how the stock app shows two distinct bars here, where it's really hard to pinpoint on GCam. In this next set, again, it's like the highlights are missing on GCam. The railing in the back isn't as bright white, the clouds lack vibrancy. I much prefer stock's version here. But in this next set, I think both do a really good job. Again, the highlights aren't as pronounced on GCam as stock, but not by much. GCam produces deeper blues in the sky and slightly richer reds. To be honest, both are nice, and comes down to more of a personal preference if you ask me. Now, here's where things get a little confusing. Check out the foreground with this log railing here. It's really nice and detailed, it's pronounced with the stock camera app, but really dark on GCam. But when you look at the rocks in the back, the shadows are really lifted and much more visible on GCam. The grass with a brighter shade of green as well. There seems to be a bit of vignetting in the sky with the stock app, but it isn't bad. Other than that, both turned out pretty well. Just two different processing algorithms here. Now when we compare night shots, you'll see in adequate lighting, the stock app holds up pretty well to GCam. Again, the stock app has brighter whites here, and when shooting with Nitesite, it's a hint better than just GCam by itself. You'll see the light inside this building doesn't expose as much as the stock app, but really we're nitpicking at this point. Both came out pretty well. Here you'll see GCam produce richer greens, but darker in the foreground below. The big takeaway here is its ability to handle lighting. Take a look at the stock app blowing these lights out to GCam, and then with Nitesite turned on, it now brightens up how dark it was on what just regular GCam did alone. Pretty much took the best of what the stock app had and just what regular GCam had. This night shot, it came out excellent. It was the best one here. In this next set, with tap to focus set on the T-Mobile sign, you'll see GCam really brighten up the shot, showing things much better than the stock app. But that comes at the cost of, one, a pink purplish haze that I'm guessing is either coming from T-Mobile's lighting or just the way the post-processing is, and two, a lot of background noise, which if you think about it, it's really similar from what you'll see with the Pixel 3 and the Pixel 4, something that I've mentioned in the past, and again, most likely because of GCam and how it handles its post-processing. With Nitesite activated, it brightens the shot just a tad more, but Nothing really changes when it comes to the background noise. I guess you pick your poison here, right? The stock camera app will give you a more realistic shot with a much darker result. GCam will brighten everything up. It'll keep artificial lighting better exposed, but with added noise in the back. You have more of the same here. The stock app overexposes these lights, but GCam leaves behind a weird haze, again a bit of a purplish tint, and background noise in the sky. Enabling Nitesite only makes it worse. You'll see with adequate lighting at night, the stock app still holds its own really well. In fact, I feel it's more balanced than GCam here, as GCam starts to get a tad too bright for my liking. But here's where GCam really shows its true potential. In super difficult lighting, the background noise is gone. The trees and everything around, they're super visible compared to the stock app, and when we use Nitesite, well, it's literally night and day. Obviously, it's not accurate to what you're really seeing at night, but if you need to take a shot in super dark lighting, super difficult lighting, well, then here you go. And in this last set, in almost pitch black darkness, the stock camera app couldn't even focus with what was going on. GCam took care of that, no problem. And with Nitesite turned on, well, again, it's one of those things where the results speak for themselves. So GCam in this instance has its pros and cons. The huge pro here is that in super difficult lighting, GCam works great, especially with Nitesite. But when you start involving street lights and artificial lighting, you have to be wary about background noise and even that kind of like purplish hue that was coming from a lot of the night shots. And then during the day, it was pulling a lot of the highlights as well, so be careful about that too. I will say the stock camera app for the Moto G7 is pretty great, especially when there's adequate lighting. I mean, even in night shots, it's pretty good. You just have to be careful about super difficult lighting. I mean, that's something that obviously you'd probably have to stay away from. What's great about GCam though is you can just install that app to be a companion to the stock camera app and use it when you need it. It just goes to show how software and post-processing can really make a difference. If you guys like this video, please consider supporting me on Patreon. Your support helps me make these daily videos. It'll help me continue making camera comparisons just like these. I'll leave a link to my Patreon in the description, or you can just go to patreon.com/Jerome Ortega. With that being said, I'd like to thank Krishna for being my newest patron on Patreon. Krishna, thank you so much for your support. Finally, check me out on Instagram at PhoneJerome, where I'll post pictures with my DSLR or any kind of smartphones that I have on me. And also check me out on Twitter at PhoneJerome, where I'll talk about just about anything. And that's it. I'll see you guys in the next one.